Hi, I'm Bob Dinerstein. I'm director of the Disability Rights Law Clinic, and I want to tell you a little bit about what we do in that clinic. I started the Disability Rights Clinic in 2005 with 8 students, and we are now, and it was just me as the instructor. We now have 2 instructors. I'm joined by a practitioner in residence this year. That's Jasmine Harris, and will be next year as well. And we have 10 students in the Disability Rights Clinic. The Disability Rights Clinic is a year-long clinic. When I established the clinic back in 2005, I was really interested in setting up this clinic for a variety of reasons. One was that people with disabilities are a very underserved population within the city, the metropolitan area, and indeed throughout the country and the world. I thought that there was really a need for clients with disabilities to have representation, and I thought that we could make a difference in that. Secondly, not only are people underrepresented when they have disabilities, but sometimes the quality of the representation, if you look broadly, isn't what it ought to be. And in particular, there can be a tendency to be paternalistic towards clients with disabilities, to think one knows what's best for them without necessarily talking to them about it. And I thought it was important to establish a clinic where we would have could have a kind of practice, a client-centered practice that would respect and take seriously clients' concerns while pursuing the kinds of interests that they have. And that's, I think we've been able to do that, and we've had a lot of success in our clinic. To give you an idea of the kind of things we do in the Disability Rights Clinic, we have a number of cases in special education where we represent parents or other caretakers of students who have disabilities or for whom we seek an evaluation to show whether they have disabilities. Here in the District of Columbia, as you may know, the quality of education and quality of special education often leaves something to be desired. So many of our students are seeking what the law calls a free, appropriate public education, and we have to advocate for that. We advocate for that in interdisciplinary team meetings where we're sometimes butting heads with special education coordinators or with principals or others who are associated with schools. Sometimes we're urging that the student be placed in a non-public school because the public school can't meet his or her needs. Sometimes we're urging evaluations. There's a variety of things that we do to try to identify or to get the services that by law the students are entitled to. The kinds of disabilities vary. They can include students with emotional disturbance, learning disability, ADHD, physical disabilities, bipolar disorder, you name it. We have a wide range of those kinds of conditions. And again, our goal is to try to assist our clients getting their students, their children, the kind of education they're entitled to. And almost every team, and actually I should say every team in the clinic will have a case from the special education area. The second kind of case that we do is an admission case in Superior Court in the District of Columbia on behalf of people with intellectual disabilities. The District of Columbia no longer has a large institution for people with intellectual disabilities. It did formerly have one called Forest Haven, which closed in 1991. But it still has residential services, group homes, apartments, other places where people with disabilities live. In order to get those services through the Department on Disability Services, one must be evaluated for his or her capacity to seek those services voluntarily or else have them imposed involuntarily. We are appointed either as guardian ad litem or as counsel for individuals who are seeking or for whom those services are being sought. And those are also very interesting cases which give us direct involvement with and contact with people with disabilities themselves. Again, primarily intellectual disabilities, which, again, intellectual disability is the term that is now used for what used to be called mental retardation. That is, I think, one of the kinds of representations where we get to work directly with clients who themselves have disabilities, and that's been a wonderful experience for the students. We do some Social Security disability work, but not so much, and partly because I've been more interested over time in cases in which we're arguing for the extension of rights to people with disabilities, situations where we're seeking to enhance their autonomy, and not necessarily situations where we're looking for benefits for them, although there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But we do a few cases in that area, and you might be getting one of those. We do a series of cases, or have done a series of cases under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was enacted in 1990. Over time, we have done some employment discrimination cases under that statute. We have done some access cases. We have, for example, this year a case that we filed in federal court on behalf of a client who's a wheelchair user and who complained about the fact that when she went onto one bus that supposedly had a lift for her, the lift didn't work, and she was injured in the course of being in the wheelchair and having the lift supposedly bring her up to into the bus itself. She also complained that there were several buses that passed her by, even though she was waiting at a bus stop to be picked up. So we're in the midst of right now in mediation in that case, but that's the case that we filed. We have some cases where we represent clients in the mental health system who are seeking services or filing grievances regarding the services they either got or should have received from the Department of Mental Health, or can include complaints about medication being imposed against their will. And in those cases, again, we work directly with our clients and who have mental or psychosocial disabilities and do those cases too. We have represented clients who have had claims of housing discrimination on the basis of disability. We have represented clients who have had concerns about access to public accommodations of various sorts, whether it's restaurants or movie theaters. The only common theme is that anybody with a disability can be one of our clients. We always look for some connection to a disability. One of the things that we talk to students about in our clinic is that people with disabilities often live lives where there are many people who are in their lives, bureaucracies with whom they interact, whether they're getting benefits or some other kind of service, and we have to recognize that our role is to not be another bureaucracy for the client, but rather to be empowering or to help empower the clients in those situations. We, like the other clinics, we have a seminar that meets every week, and we also have case rounds that meet every week, and you work in teams of 2, which most of the clinics have, because we think that working collaboratively with another student is also a way for you to learn, in addition to learning individually from us. One innovation we did this year in our seminar, connected to the simulation work we do in the seminar, is we had a simulation that was based on a client who either had an intellectual disability or who was a parent of a child who was seeking, was involved in the special education system. And rather than have students play the role of client or even going out and getting actors play that role, we actually connected with real people in the community to play the roles. So for example, we work with a group called Project Action, which is a group of self-advocates, people with intellectual disabilities. We had them come in and actually play the role of the client who had an intellectual disability. And it was really exciting for the students to not only learn how to do an interview, but to do an interview with somebody who didn't have to make up the condition, but actually had the condition. And in 1 or 2 cases, clients, the acting clients, if you will, stepped out of role to tell the students whether or not what they were doing was something that they would expect to happen or would be critical of. And so I think the students learned quite a lot from that. In our special education case, we had real parents come in who talked about, again, played the role, but also later talked about what it's like to be a parent of a child who needs special education and how they've experienced working with lawyers over time. So that's been a nice addition to it. Last thing I'll say about the Disability Rights Clinic is that every year we look for some activities that are beyond just the individual representation. Sometimes those are clinic-wide projects, including doing research on behalf of a special master in a federal court case that we did one time, or on behalf of an NGO that was working with the State Department to actually develop background material for the ratification of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Sometimes our collaborations are intra-clinic, that is, we work with our criminal justice clinic, our immigrant justice clinic, other clinics where there's a disability piece to a broader case. So we look for things that are not just sort of within the 4 corners of the Disability Rights Clinic. The Disability Rights Clinic is one of our newer clinics. It's the second most recent, the most recent being the Immigrant Justice Clinic. I think we've made a mark already in the relatively short time that we've been around, and we look forward to continuing to do that, and with your help, we will do that. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay.